All right, so more inequalities today. Today's kind of like a combination of back when we did translating expressions. So like when you had a sentence form, you had to write it into a word form. So we're doing that, but with inequality. So we have to do some graphing with it too. This is not super hard considering we've already kind of done it, like I said, with expressions. You just have to pay attention to the words because they're kind of the opposite of what you'd think. So once again, if you want to pause me and copy this chart and then play me after you've copied it down, that'd probably be best because you definitely need this chart. Remember, you're going to be given a sentence and you need to be able to write it in number form, if that makes sense. So these are some of the key words that will be in those sentences to help you figure out which sign will go with the numbers. These two are pretty, make common sense. Greater than, less than, fewer than, more than. It makes sense that those go together. These over here are where it gets a little more confusing. What I mean by that is, obviously this is the less than or equal to sign. We talked about that in the last lesson. But then you get down to these two, and it says is at most and is no more than. So the reason this is confusing because most of the time when kids see the word most, they're going to think it goes with the greater than sign because obviously most is kind of like a big thing. But here, think about most being used this way. Let's say that your mom said you could have at most 5 friends come spend the night at your house. Okay, so if your mom says at most 5 friends, that means the most friends you can have spend the night is 5. You can have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but you cannot have more than 5. Okay, so you can have equal to 5, but you can't have anything more than that. So that's why it goes with the less than sign, because you can have that or less. Okay, same thing with is no more than. Let's say that you, let's say, I'm trying to think of one. Okay, so let's say that you are riding on a bus and the bus has a limit of how many people can ride on the bus. And it says you can have no more than 35 kids on this bus. What that means is that you can have 35 kids or less. So once again, yes, it says most and more, which typically would go with the greater than sign, but it's kind of the opposite here because you're saying you can have that or less. Okay, so be careful with those because those are the ones that people mess up on a lot. Same thing right here. It says at least, but it's the greater than sign because think about it this way. If it says you have to be at least 60 inches to ride this roller coaster, all right, well, what's that mean? That means at least means you have to be 60 or more, okay? So the shortest you can be is 60 inches. Can you be 60? Yes, 60 is fine, but you cannot be less than 60. Okay, so that's why it's the greater than or equal to sign because you can be equal to 60 or you could be anything bigger than 60. But if you're 59 inches, you're not riding that roller coaster, okay? Because you have to be that or more. Same thing for no less than. Let's say that you had to do good on a test and your mom said you can make no less than an 85 on this test. Okay, so that means you can make an 85 or anything better. You cannot go less than an 85. Okay, so I just want to give you a heads up on those things because those are the things that usually tend to trip students up. But the more we practice with it, the better you'll get with it. Because at least is one that gets used a lot. So you need to get used to using at least and using that greater than sign that goes with it. Okay? So let's look at a few examples of how you might see this used. All right, here's one of them. What if it said a number K, once again, I know that K is a letter, but remember, we learned in substitution that K is really a number that they're going to place in there eventually once we figure it out. So a number K plus 5 is greater than or equal to 8. All right, so a couple key things I see going on here. I see the word plus, and then I see greater than or equal to. All right, So let's take care of this plus first. So it says a number k plus 5. That's pretty simple. K plus 5. I can handle that. Then it says greater than or equal to. All right, you just got to know which sign that is. So greater than or equal to would be this one, and then it just says 8. And that's your answer. That's all you have to do. Okay, so you just have to be able to read the sentence and kind of understand what is being asked of you. All right, let's look at another one. A number C is less than -4. Okay, so there's no extra operator words like plus, minus, none of those. But I do see is less than. So that just means all I'm doing is C, and then I look at my chart up here to make sure I know which sign I'm using, and I'm using the less than sign, and then it's -4. And that's all you had to do. All right, so that one was even easier. All right, let's try this one. Four times a number Q is fewer than 7. Okay, so I know times is important, and then is fewer than is on my chart at the top, so that's important. So I just need to be able to know how to write these. So 4 times Q, you can write it like this. Because remember, when you have 4 and Q side by side, it means they're multiplying. If you wanted to put a time sign in between those, that'd be fine too. But you're most likely going to see it on a test written like this. But just know that this is 4 times Q. And then is fewer than, I look at my chart, it's the less than sign. So then I just put 7. And that's my final answer. Okay. All right, let's look at one more like this. Let's do this one. Let's do twice a number P is at most 16. Okay, so let's circle our keywords. Twice is important, and then at most is important. Okay, so I remember back in my translating expressions notes that twice meant you're multiplying by 2. So I'm doing 2 times P. All right, at most. Remember, that's one of those tricky ones that when you see most, you usually think of the greater than sign, but it's actually flipped. Okay, because remember, at most means that or less. So it's going to be, and if you look at your chart, you can see it's the less than or equal to sign, and then you got 16. All right, so by far the trickiest part of this lesson is just knowing what sign go with these key phrases, okay? That's why I have that chart up there at the top for you to look at to help you figure out which signs go with it. Next thing I want to look at, and I've attached this in your own Canvas for you to have as well. If you don't have a printer, you can just look on with us. So these are just some examples. You're still going to want that chart that we were using in our notes. So if you still have that, you can leave it out. But let's look at what these say. So it says, in New York State, the law states that a person must be at least 16 years old to drive a vehicle. So at least is what we're looking at here. So that tells me that it's going to be, it doesn't matter what letter you use. So we're talking about people, we'll say P. So P, at least. I look at my chart, I see that at least is the greater than or equal to sign, and then it's 16, okay? Which makes sense because obviously to drive a car, you can be greater than 16, so you can be 85 years old and driving a car, or you can be equal to 16. If you are 16 years old and you have your license, you can drive a car, okay? So that's why it's got the line underneath it, because you can be equal to 16. but you can't be less than 16, so it has to be that or greater than. So when we go plot this on our chart, all right, so 16 is the one we're asking about. All right, so let's just fill in some of these. You don't have to do all of them if you don't want. Up to you. All right, now I see that I have a line underneath my sign, so remember that means that my circle has to be filled in. All right, my letter's on the left side, so that's what I need. It is pointing to this way, so that means I can shade everything going this way. Okay, because everything in this direction means I can drive a car. If I'm 16 or more, I can drive a car. Okay, it makes sense not to color this way, because if you're going this way, you can't drive a car because you're too young. Okay, so 16 or more is when you can drive a car. Let's look at the next one. In the United States, the law states that a person must be 18 or older to vote. So, must be 18 or older. Okay, so that's not exactly on our list of words, but it kind of makes sense with how it's worded. So, P, and I'll go ahead and put my 18 because I know that's the number I'm using. Now let's think about what sign goes there. 18 or older. So can I be 18? Yes. Okay, or older. So how would you show being older? Well, think about which numbers are older. Is 17 older or is 19 older? Hopefully you're saying 19 is older. So once again, I'm using that same sign that I used above. So if I put 18 in here, okay, once again, I got a line underneath my sign, so my circle has to be filled in. And once again, I want P to be greater, so my greater than numbers are headed this way. Okay, anything that direction would be good. All right, number 3. You only have $15 to spend on your friend's birthday gift, okay? So our keywords here are kind of have $15. So we're talking about money, so we'll say M, and my number's 15. Now I just got to figure out what sign is going in there, okay? So if you have $15, can you spend $15? Yes, I can spend $15, okay? Can I spend $15.01? No. So I know that the most I can spend is $15, so I cannot go over $15. But can I be equal to $15? Yes. If I have $15, it means I can spend it. So this one is going to be less than or equal to, okay? I can be equal to 15. I can spend every single dollar that I have, or I can spend anything less. You know, if I wanted to, I could just spend $8 on my friend, all right? So anything less than 15 or equal to 15 would be fine. So if I have 15 here, got 14, 16. Once again, I have a line underneath my sign, so my circle has to be filled in. But this time it says less than, so we're going in the direction of the 14 because I cannot spend over $15 because I don't have over $15. So everything that way. Okay? Next one. Students are required to stay home from school if their temperature is above 102. Okay? So you'll notice on this one, all right, so this is temperature, so we'll say a T, and my number is 102. Okay? So it says if their temperature is above 102. Now be careful with this one because it doesn't say if it is 102. So if you have a temperature that's 102, you can go to school. But if it's above 102, then you can't go to school, okay? So equal to 102 is fine, but if you go over 102, that's when you have to stay home. So it's just the greater than sign because it can be anything greater than 102, you have to stay home. Okay, there's no line underneath my sign, so I'm gonna leave it open. And it's saying anything greater than this, so greater would be going this direction. All right. So the last two, I want you to try to do on your own. If you have any questions about them, feel free to send me an email. Please write the inequality and also do the graph that matches it. Make sure you're paying attention to whether your circle is going to be open or closed.